If you thought that pandemic-era snitching hotlines had been done away with, along with masks and a virus that apparently has no symptoms, you'd be wrong. The city of Calgary is now warning residents that they will be required to conserve water for 3 to 5 weeks, as it turns out that a major water feed main that requires repairs also needs to be fixed in 5 other locations. Now, I hate to say I told you so, but if you heeded my warnings from last week's episode, then basically, I told you so. And if you thought that this crapshoot couldn't get any worse, you'd be wrong. Petty tyrants are coming out of the woodwork in Calgary, with thousands of Calgarians reporting their neighbor for not doing an adequate job of conserving water. More than 2,000 Calgarians have now called city bylaw to complain about their neighbors' inadequate water conservation efforts. And this week, city officials announced that they were moving past the education portion and telling officers to begin ticketing, with fines beginning at $3,000. This is Canada in 2024. If you're found guilty of not being sufficiently stronger together, or whatever the latest saying is, then you'll have to pay through the nose. Or in the case of pastors in COVID-19, you'll be put in jail. But the politicians and government officials that screw up time and time again, their worst case scenario is not being reelected and instead receiving a cushy 6-figure consulting job with a hefty expense account. It really is one rule for thee and another rule for me. And the sooner we all realize that, the sooner we can start doing something about it. I'm Rachel Emmanuel, and this is the Alberta Roundup.
Rachel Emmanuel brings the news each day on Alberta Roundup. She has her say.
Okay, everyone, let's start by getting caught up on the situation currently unfolding in Calgary. The major water feed main that burst now 2 weeks ago has been repaired. But the city is now saying that it's going to take 3 to 5 weeks until residents can stop with their water conservation efforts because they've now identified 5 more areas of that huge pipe that need to be fixed. Now, like I said before, I hate to say I told you so, but I pretty much called this last week when I pointed out that Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek hadn't exactly been the most forthcoming. When she was asked whether she was sure this water breach was just a one-off, she declined to say. And also that it seems Calgary's water infrastructure is really just falling apart all across the city. Take a listen to what I said last week. So just to sum up, there's been a break in a major water feed that officials still don't know when is going to be fixed. While that was happening in the city of Bowness, there was also another break in a water main in the city of Bowness, a smaller one unrelated to the first incident, as if that's supposed to reassure us somehow that things are running very smoothly over at the city of Calgary. Then, an access point to the major water feed also needed to be fixed so that officials could get down and fix this issue in the first place. And while all of this is going on, the mayor of Calgary is not able to come out and say that this incident was a one-off. Instead, she tries to reassure us by saying that regular maintenance was being done on this. If regular maintenance was being done on this, how did this incident happen in the first place? You think this is something officials would have been able to catch before it turned into the massive citywide crisis that is happening right now. Just hours after that episode was released, the city announced that it was going to need to repair that major water feed main in 5 additional areas. The city's estimate of time it would take to complete the repairs went from 1 week to 3 to 5 weeks. That's 3 to 5 weeks of not watering outdoors, not filling your hot tub or pool, not washing your vehicle, and not running a sprinkler for your kids to play in this summer. The city is referring to those 5 sites as hotspots. Here's Calgary CAO David Duckworth explaining what that means in a briefing on Tuesday. Take a listen.
I'd like to provide a little bit more clarity around what are hotspots. So hotspots are additional locations requiring repair that we found in subsequent analysis of the pipe in the areas beyond the spot of the initial break. These hotspots are not leaks, but rather they are identified structural deficiencies that require immediate repair. There are no indications of leaks at this point, but that may change as we uncover and assess the pipe at each of these 5 hotspot locations. We want to get ahead of and avoid a similar failure to the one that we've currently or just recently experienced.
You have to laugh a little bit at his comment at the end there about working to get ahead of future repairs. I think we're well past that. I think if you had been working ahead to get ahead of future repairs, we wouldn't be in the situation right now where Calgarians are being asked not to use water outside for 5 weeks. And those that are using water outside are going to be fined $3,000 and have their neighbors snitch on them. I think we're well past that. If I was being generous, I would say his comments were a little ironic. And if I wasn't in a generous mood, which I'm not really, I would say he's pretty much gaslighting us. You obviously haven't got ahead of the situation, which is why now this summer, Calgarians are not going to be able to use water outside. A friendly reminder here that Calgary Mayor Jody Gonick has said that regular maintenance was being done on this pipe. Regular maintenance that was so successful that Calgarians are being asked not to use water outside during the hottest part of the summer. Make of that what you will, but for those wondering why the repairs are going to take so long, here's Mayor Gondik explaining in an update on Wednesday morning. Take a listen.
Many thanks to the city crews and private contractors who work 24/7 to get this work done. And this brings us to the 5 hotspots that were identified, the places that need repair before we can turn on the tap at the Bearspaw treatment facility and run water through the feeder main again. Those 5 spots of repair are currently underway. Yesterday, we watched as crews were tearing up 16th Avenue in Montgomery to get at that 2-meter wide feeder main.
As some of you likely know, we are getting most of the pieces of pipe that's required from San Francisco. This has been a big controversy brewing online, with many people saying that this pipe was available to get in Canada. The mayor also addressed that controversy in her Wednesday briefing, saying that San Francisco was the only place that had it readily available. They could have had that pipe made in Canada from a local source, but it simply would have taken too long, which is why we're getting the pipe from San Francisco. She also announced that she has asked a third party to review the situation to see why the pipe burst, because of course we still don't know why this crisis happened in the first place. Let's go back to CAO David Duckworth explaining how this review will play out.
The framework for the full third-party review has already been established, and the scope of this review will include, but not be limited to, understanding the factors that contributed to the original pipe failure, understanding of our current practices for inspection and asset sustainability, and it will include recommendations for specific actions to improve water supply resilience moving forward. The review will be guided by an expert panel from academia, the water industry, water utilities management and engineering, and government entities focused on infrastructure and resilience.
Honestly, this might give some of you hope, and I'm glad if it does, but as soon as he said academia, he lost me. Anytime the government appoints these review panels, it's basically a lot of people get together and sit around in a room, usually at the taxpayer expense, for many weeks or many months. And, maybe we see that report in half a year or even a few years' time, and there's some general recommendations about things that could be done, but these rarely have any teeth to them, and rarely are people who are responsible for this held to any sort of account. So, and as he said, there's going to be a host of academics on the panel. I mean, these are the people who told us that we had to stay home and isolate if we were sick with COVID, even though we might not have any symptoms. So the report, it doesn't instill any confidence in me. While this goes on, stage 4 restrictions for Calgarians, you can't wash outdoor surfaces such as buildings, sidewalks, and driveways. They're also barring you from filling fountains outside or other decorative water features, washing cars, as I said, and also for using water for construction purposes like dust control. Now, as I said in my introduction, the city announced this week that it would no longer be prioritizing an education-first approach for people who are found to have been breaching those stage 4 water restrictions, that it was actually going to move into ticketing. Here's Kobe Durr, Deputy Chief of Calgary Emergency Management, explaining the city's new approach at a briefing this week. Take a listen.
The City of Calgary community peace officers have responded to more than 2,000 complaints for individuals or businesses not adhering to stage 4 water restrictions. The overwhelming majority have been resolved through education and warnings. 2 tickets have been issued. However, moving forward, unless there are mitigating circumstances, the direction to our peace officers is to proceed with ticketing if there is evidence of an offense for someone contravening the water restrictions. I'll remind folks that the specific penalty is $3,000 for an offense under the water utility bylaw, which speaks to the seriousness of this situation.
I have to say, the thing that bothers me most about this snitching hotline business is that I would guarantee you that in 99.9% of the cases, the individual who called the bylaw officers to complain about their neighbor didn't approach their neighbor to talk to them first, to say, hey, are you aware of these water restrictions? Just curious as to why you're watering outside. And I mean, there's also the whole mind your own business aspect of things, but that's probably the thing that bothers me most, is people are so quick to turn to the government to solve all their solutions. And of course, as we know, the government only ends up causing more problems. So You thought that those pandemic era snitching hotline days were over, and they are not. People are all too eager to return to them. Okay, everyone, let's take a look at the weekly comment roundup. There were so many great comments under last week's episode. I did get to some of them on Saturday, but I wanted to take a look at a few more because I really appreciated just your thoughtfulness and also you guys, your sense of humor amid this crisis. User at GB Jarvie said, "Good video. I'm a native Calgarian, and I have always been concerned about some aspects of the city. One thing that has bothered me for years is the apathy of the population. Another thing is the sheer naivety of the Conservatives specifically, but the people in the city generally. It's this apathy that allows these clowns to continue to be elected. Gondek and most of the council are clearly idiots, and everyone seems shocked and are complaining, but it remains to be seen if people will bother to vote them out. Calgarians need to complain more, then bother to vote, and stop splitting the Conservative side of the vote too." I feel like this is one of my friends, in Calgary, that is just an anonymous username, because I've had this exact conversation with so many people that I know in Calgary. You're 100% correct. I agree with everything that you said. Your apathy is a huge problem. For sure in Calgary and just all over Canada right now, but I mean, if we're looking at Calgary specific, even think of the recall Jody Gondek effort. That was unsuccessful. We knew it was going to be unsuccessful because the petitioner Landon Johnston came on the show and said that it would be impossible for him to get enough signatures because there's such a large portion of Calgary that doesn't speak English and were kind of unreachable when they were going about that. But the petition still didn't garner that many signatures. There's a lot of people who complain about Jody Gondek and then in the end can't be bothered to go find somewhere to sign the petition or to be volunteer to help collect signatures. So yes, apathy is a huge problem that we're facing in Canada right now, and that's really why our country looks the way that it does, 100%. User at Fanzer said, "After I saw the Country Hills golf course watering their entire course this morning, my own water saving measures evaporated." I have no idea whether there's any truth to this. I didn't mean to throw this golf course under the bus, but I just thought this was funny. Pretty much how I would be. Oh, this is important. Oh, wait, other people aren't doing it? Yeah, I guess it's not really that important after all. But, I think this is something that the city of Calgary is going to really run into problems with as the 3 to 5 weeks continues. As there's still enough water every day, people are going to, I think, find the water restrictions less and less serious and be less inclined to follow them, especially because we're still going ahead with the Calgary Stampede. And obviously we're going to have a host of tourists here. They're going to be staying in hotels. They're going to be using water. It's going to be getting hotter. People are going to want to be outside playing with their kids. So I don't know. I have a feeling the city is going to really struggle to keep a hold on these restrictions. But of course, that's why they're relying on you, ratting out your neighbor to their snitch hotline. Okay, everyone, that's all we have time for today. If you want to support my work, you can do that over at donate.tnc.news. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the True North YouTube page so you don't miss any of my content. I'm also on other shows. I don't just do the Alberta Roundup anymore. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. For those of you in Calgary, I hope that you stay hydrated and clean. God bless. See you guys on Saturday.